90.5.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah.
Ago when you come with Makasa Kakra, and when you come when Tiam Kakra, Menkasapi. Damabara Makade Bakans Babukakran and Yamakan Fancy. At long last, the battle has ended. And thus, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. And here again, I want to take the opportunity to thank the chiefs and people of this country, the youth, the farmers, the women, who have so nobly fought and won this battle. Also, I want to thank the valiant ex-servicemen who have so cooperated with me in this mighty task of freeing our country from foreign rule and imperialism. And as I pointed out at our party conference at Sorbonne, I made it quite clear that from now on
I love Radio Gold 90.5.
we must change our attitudes, our minds. We must realize that from now on we are no more a colonial but a free and independent people. But also, as I pointed out, that also entails hard work. I am depending upon the millions of the country, the chiefs and people, to help me to reshape the destiny of this country. We are prepared to build it up and make it a nation that will be respected by every other nation in the world. We know we are going to have difficult beginnings, but again, I'm relying upon your support. I'm relying upon your hard work. Seeing you in these thousands, it doesn't matter how far my eye goes. I can see that you are here in your millions. And my last warning to you is that you ought to stand firm behind us so that we can prove to the world that when the African is given a chance, he can show to the world that he's somebody. We shall no more go back to sleep anymore. Today, from now on, there is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that, after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. We are going to demonstrate to the world, to the other nations, young as we are, that we are prepared to lay our own foundation. As I said in the assembly just a minute ago, I made it point that we are going to say that we create our own African personality and identity. It's the only way in which we can show the world that we are ready for our own battle. But today, may I call upon you all that at this great day, Let us all remember that nothing in the world can be done unless it has the purported support of God. We have done the battle, and we again rededicate ourselves not only in the struggle to emancipate other territories in Africa. Our independence is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. Let us now, fellow Ghanaians, let us now ask for God's blessing. And for only 2 seconds,
90.5 FM,
in your thousands and millions, I want to ask you to pause only for 1 minute and give thanks to Almighty God for having led us through obstacles, difficulties, imprisonment, hardship, and suffering to have brought us to the end of our trouble today.
Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great song.
All right, so it's 10 minutes after 9, and you're welcome to today's edition of Alhaji and Alhaji, Saturday morning, December 16th. I hope you're all doing well. And today we will start by looking at the headlines of the newspapers, after which I would share with you the issues we are tabling for discussion. And the Ghanaian Times has on its front page a picture of His Excellency the President, and it says, Accra biggest beachfront project begins. Also, German widow fraud case adjourned to January 18th. And those are the headlines of the newspapers on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. You find on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper, Bese Manche praises Nana over Marine Beach project. Also, NPP set for confab to amend constitution, cop robber caged, and lesbian bastard in Suhum on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. You'll find on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, Marine Drive project begins. President cuts sword, 150,000 to be engaged. VIP tasks regional ministers to ensure success of government projects. And you will also find on the front page of the paper, NPP Extraordinary Delegates Conference set for tomorrow, all captured on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. You would also find on the front page of the final paper, which is the Spectator newspaper, it says, Dr. Wiafe Ade elected AORTIC president, and then Nana Ya Inyakwa of Manfi Ekuapem carrying a pot of palm wine during their Safosa festival last weekend. Matthew warns of severe Hamatan. That's all on the front page of the Spectator newspaper. And so those are the headlines of the newspapers that we have with us this morning. And then we move on to share with you the topics that we have outlined for this morning's discussion. And first on our list is the topic, an impeachment process fraught with breaches and suspicious maneuvering of the executives and judiciary. An analysis of the case of the impeachment of Charlotte Osei and her two deputies as they get investigated by the 5-member committee set up by the Chief Justice and matters arising. Also, in the matter of the outbreak of diseases on campuses of our SHSs, could the Ghana Health Service have handled it better? Analyze the statement by the Ghana Health Service that it's as a result of congestion vis-a-vis the Vice President's statement that the situation has been contained. Those are the two issues we have tabled for discussion today on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. We are live on GFM Radio in London, live on Sekpele 104.3 in Lekpe, live on Shine 96.9 in Akachi, Lukusi Radio 96.1 in Vet Golokwati. Also live on Radio Pando 102.5, live on Global FM 105.1 in Ho. We're live on SAPS Radio Online, also live on our website www.radiogold905.com. You can listen to us there. Also, can you check out the tuning application and search for Radio Gold 90.5. You will be able to listen to us live on that platform as well. You'll be able to monitor us as well live if you go to the Google Play Store and search for Radio Gold 90.5. You've seen the application there. Download it, install it, and you can listen to us. This program is very interactive, and so your thoughts, your views, and your comments play a very important role in our deliberations. And so we always encourage you to send through your text messages, your comments, and you can do so by looking for me on Twitter and then Facebook with the handle at Samuel Eshen GH. At Samuel Eshen GH. I spell my Eshen ESHUN, and it's all spelled together. Samuel Eshen GH. Look for me on Facebook, add me on Twitter, follow me, and start sending your comments through, and I'll read these comments as and when I have the time to go through those comments. So, as always, you know that I'm always here with people who assist me with these discussions, and today I am honorably joined by Mr. Kwesipra Jr., the managing editor of the Insight newspaper, His Excellency Lawyer Sampiya Ghana's former High Commissioner to India, Comrade Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, a former MP for Nanton, and a former Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, and they would help me do justice to these issues. Also, prompting those of us who want to go and solidarize with Sister Valentina Ofori, the late husband. Kaba is being buried today. And so I encourage you, lovers and well-wishers, to go support our sister in these very hard times. And he'll be laid in state at the forecourt, I believe, of the State House. And so all are encouraged to help support our brother Kobe Fiagbe, who also lost a brother. The burial service of the late brother, is also today. As we go along, we'll share some more details with you on the show. So please kindly stay with us as I give you these details. So those of you who can go and support our brother Kobe Fiagbe in these very hard times can also do so after the show. I will be there myself, and so would we encourage you to also be there. And so we set the ball rolling this morning for today's discussion, and we start off with the impeachment process that our topic says may be fraught with some breaches and suspicions and maneuverings of the executive and the judiciary. A full analysis of the process of the impeachment investigation of Charlotte Osei and her two deputies, and the committee's work that we envisage would be done. Ambassador, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I hope you're doing well today, sir.
I'm doing well. Thank you. And thanks people like we see who have been sustaining the program. We listen to them in Takrady, and we are so pleased. Today, like you were saying, I came to be part of Kaba's funeral.
Yeah.
But on this invitation, and knowing that something equally important, like the death of our students, is going to be is going to be discussed. I said, okay, it's better to say a word to prevent what may be happening after that, and then go to the funeral.
Yeah.
So, indeed, it is very disappointing that a country called Ghana, that has been touted worldwide with credibility in respect of our electoral processes and electoral managers, to be faced midstream with such a laughable process of impeaching the Electoral Commission. One would have thought that such a process would have been the last resort after many meaningful attempts have been made at resolving whatever the issues there may be, whatever situation is pertaining at the Electoral Commission. When the matter first came up, we were thinking that it was a joke, so nobody took it serious. So I never even read the charges until when I learned that His Excellency's office has submitted the matter to judiciary for education. If you read the charges, in the main, the bases are all administrative. It has nothing to do with the electoral functions of the Electoral Commission. So therefore, reference to the Chief Justice is questionable, because the Constitution does not give the Chief Justice the administrative jurisdiction over matters of the Electoral Commission, just as the Constitution also prohibits any individual or group of persons from interfering with administrative functions of the judiciary. Now, if it was in connection with the electoral functions of the Electoral Commission, then one could say that there's a bigger issue on the table. But reading through the charges that were sent to the Chief Justice, I'm inclined to believe that there's more to it than meets the eye. Now, before a petition or resolution attracts the attention of the high office of the president, several pre-investigations should have been conducted to establish a prima facie case against the Electoral Commissioner. I'm yet to see any of such reports. It is for such purpose administrative injustices that we have institutions like the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, so that if the Electoral Commissioner has done anything fouling any administrative processes, I think the best forum is the Commissioner for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. If anybody or any member of staff in the Electoral Commission has had his human rights abused, I think the forum convenient is the Commissioner for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. I am yet to see the constitutional basis that warrants an immediate transfer of such a horribly structured petition, being sent to the Chief Justice immediately for an impeachment process to begin. Mr. Shan, this country is becoming interesting every day. And the interest is not to anybody's advantage. The interest that is being perpetuated is very, very fearful. Very, very fearful. Because these days, even speaking on issues in public is becoming challenging. I am mindful of a nice technician, a staff of the National Identification Authority, who, according to reports, is being dismissed for what reason? For the fact that he has made a Facebook comment. I have also seen videotape of the guy in Kumasi called Apia Stadium, and he claims, it is yet to be investigated, that he's been attacked because of his public utterances. People are gradually, and somebody like me, who have over the years, at least for nothing at all, I've known Nanado for the past 40 years in his struggle to become who he is. He's been a champion and a bulwark for public advocacy, freedom of speech, all his life. And I think one of his best credentials during the elections was the fact that he's been a human rights advocate all his life. Otherwise, the other credentials didn't match what he was asking for. And for him to be sitting as our president and hearing these things and, looking in the face of Charlotte Osei Mrs. and saying that, look, I cannot even put you before the Council of State, so that all the matters you people are fighting about, if you're paying Uma, no, and that's the reason why in our constitution we have a Council of State. The Council of State has more responsibilities than advising the president. The Council of State has other responsibilities in ensuring that we have stability in our country, and that matters that goes the way it's going can be resolved by alternative dispute resolution. And for these administrative issues, I I've told you, I'm here to find a constitutional basis. You know, that if there was some electoral process, electoral flaws in the work that the woman was doing, then we will always say, no. But you see, this is the electoral commissioner who less than 12 months ago declared the president the winner of these elections. And therefore, since then, there's never been any elections in this country to warrant any electoral malpractice. And so therefore, if the question now boils down to just mere administrative issues, then I have a lot of doubts as to the intention of how this whole thing was cooked and where it's going to end. Now, if there are members of staff or co-chairman of the council do not appear to see eye to eye, is the answer an impeachment? Is the answer of administrative disunity impeachment? Mr. President, it is not your duty to reverse all these years of achievements in our electoral processes. What is happening gives fertile grounds for the imagination that it's all part of a plan towards your re-election of as president 2020. And I prefer to see you win elections in an untainted manner than to do this hanky-panky business to eliminate the electoral commissioner just because you did not appoint him. Sorry. Furthermore, Mr. Shen, I have tried to know who is the lawyer for the complainant and what his pleadings are. And I'm told that he's my former lecturer at the Ghana School of Law. And I know the relationship between this lecturer and the electoral commissioner. I mention this because it is my belief that just as some of us have taken you as our junior brother, and that if you are doing something that is untoward, we are able to call you and advise you. It was my belief that, and in sincerity, is my opinion, that knowing the relationship between the electoral commissioner and this lawyer, she deserved some brotherly advice that, hey, Charlotte, this is what is going on. And what is it that you can do to solve the problem? Well, he's entitled to his rights of suing for his client. But my fear is that if you read international comments on what is happening in our diplomatic circles, you know, we are watching this with eagle eyes. Is Ghana busting its electoral credibilities? This is the question in the diplomatic circle we are asking. I want to urge the Chief Justice to understand that if they do it to somebody because he's a communist, the next time it will be another one. You know, now they can attack an independent organization and a head like the Electoral Commissioner. The next thing, it will be the Chief Justice. I don't like calling on any, whatever you call them, activists, the churches and the activists or whatever. I don't like calling on them at all, because I have sufficient belief in myself that they speak on issues that they want to speak about. And then we cannot force them to talk about it. But who would have to sleep peacefully in this country when our electoral processes, our heads in our electoral processes, from Afarijan all this time to this point, when you talk that the electoral commission will support the government, that's when the government loses. You know, Kingsley Nina, Afarijan, whatever. It has been the history. Who would have thought that the NDC would have lost under Charlotte Osei? Well, we lost. So if by God's design, 2020 is for Nanado, he will not win because of this in checkers. You know the fantasy called in checkers.
Yeah.
He will not win because of in checkers. He will win by an evaluation of what he has done against what people's expectations are. You understand? And they should also be aware that once bitten, twice shy. The NDC will not, and the warning is the NDC will not, shall not allow, you understand, any attempt to rig the 2020 elections. Never should they ever dream like that. They can bring the best scientists or technicians from the moon. We are capable, and we want to build a system that should counteract that. And that, to some of us, is our charge. So, if they think by invoking Roper, by thinking that the national identity, a new ID card, and all this in trickers will be what they will use to win the election, wallahi, they will be smiling at the wrong side of their teeth. Because we all have a stake to ensure that Ghana's democracy grows and grows headily, not by in trickers. So, I want to believe that this is not a starting process of the process of ensuring that they will win the 2020 election by checkers. If we are capable of guiding and guarding the electoral materials, we are capable of doing that twice and 10 times better. We have learned our lessons. Mr. Shan, I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Lawyer Sampiyale, for your submission on this matter. I'll come to Comrade Mutala for his thoughts on this matter, which has to do with a look at the impeachment process that has started against Mrs. Charlotte Osei and her two deputies. Comrade.
Well, Sean, let me say good morning to His Excellency. I say so because even though he doesn't want to be described as such, I think that he's an inspiration to a lot of us young ones, and it's important I state that I wouldn't be the only person to state it. I believe that many other young people, particularly within the NDC in politics, would acknowledge that. Let me also use this to welcome Senior Comrade. For 2 weeks we haven't seen. Yes. Senior Comrade. For and let me use the opportunity also to extend my sincere gratitude to all the NDC fraternity who participated in the forum that we had on there was this forum that was organized at Minsvik Hotel. Let me also greet your cherished listeners and of course the good people of Nanton constituency. I think that it's important that His Excellency spoke before me. I say so because he's an outstanding lawyer, a trained lawyer. I am just a law student, and to that extent, it's important that he spoke on this matter. Something happened yesterday. I was on Ago TV. I know it's Twi that is spoken. Of course, I tell people that when I go search, I speak Twi English. And my good friend, Honorable Andy Apiakubi, he made a statement when we were discussing the same matter. He said that those who are not lawyers should not be speaking on this matter. And I'm wondering the kind of country we have suddenly become. Because I reminded him that those who make this our laws, not all of them are lawyers. Parliament has the exclusive responsibility to make laws. Of course, rulings of justices or judges can also become part of our laws. But the mandate of formulating laws and amending laws in this country, as stated in the 1992 Constitution, is the exclusive right of members of Parliament. And not all members of Parliament are lawyers. In fact, the number of lawyers in Parliament are just few. Yet, if they can make the laws, why can't any other person talk about provisions in the very laws that they have made? So that is the narrative that is now being, advanced by our friends in the NPP. That any time the issue comes up, and anybody want to talk on it, they would quickly ask you whether you are a lawyer, and that if you are not a lawyer, you have no locus whatsoever to make any comment on it. And these are the kinds of people, unfortunately, 53% of the people of this country give the mandate to govern. Before I come to the substantive issue, we were warned about the likely presidency of Nana Addo. We were warned. And this warning didn't come from NDC or CPP or PNC. As a matter of fact, this warning came from his very MPP people and people whom he has lived with for a very long time. We haven't forgotten the famous statement of the Chronicle, that is Kofi Kumsen, when he stated that he will not be able to sleep in the event of then candidate Nana Addo becoming the president of the Republic of Ghana. In 2016, he was rebranded, and the rebranding, succeeded in achieving the purpose for which they did that. The Ghanaians voted him. So let us go back and find out the fear that was genuinely expressed by many people who knew the current president, and why they think that under his watch as a president of Ghana will be in chaos and turmoil. And I think that those people have been vindicated. Anybody can have anything to say on it, disagree, they can even verbally lynch me, but that is the fact. It was Kofi Kumsen and many other people who said that they could not sleep if to see then Nana Addo being the president of the Republic of Ghana. Sometimes God can give you a kind of a leader to deal with you when your lifestyle, and this thing are stated in scripture, that when people begin to conduct themselves in a way, God will choose one of their kind, or someone who would give them serious headache to lead them. And I think that is what we are experiencing today. We went into an elections, and before the elections, the electoral commissioner a new electoral commissioner was appointed because Dr. Afarijan tenure of office had, and in fact he was even retiring. Now let us not lose sight with the fact that all these problems started from the electoral commission, the other two commissioners, and I know that people would pretend about this. There is one of them who was convinced that NDC was going to make that person the electoral commissioner. One of them. And that person went to the electoral commission with diploma. I am not underestimating diploma. And didn't see the need to upgrade the certificate that person had. Because we are talking about a woman, I don't want to just mention anybody. That person didn't even see the need. Now, with all the opportunities available, even to do further, because once you do diploma, you do another one, is more or less yes. That person didn't see the need. The person was convinced that because Afarijan's retirement deed was very clear. You should find out why it had to take Afarijan to represent the Electoral Commission at the Supreme Court ruling. This was clandestine and intelligently done. Reasons and excuses were found why such a person could not represent the Electoral Commission. Because the motive of the person was that if I represent the Electoral Commission, in the case that I was convinced that the MPP didn't have a case, because and the Electoral Commission and the NDC wins the case, I would be targeted. I would be like an enemy to the opposition. So I don't want to do that, because my intention, my goal was to be made the Electoral Commission. So this was one of the reasons why that person intelligently and smartly avoided representing the Electoral Commission at the Supreme Court petition over the 2012 elections. That is one. Now, that same person, because the same person was convinced that NDC was going to make the person Electoral Commission boss, started flirting with MPP. Flirted with MPP. And gave a lot of information about electoral processes, how elections are conducted, to the MPP. I believe one of the reasons why they were able to rig, of course they won, but one of the reasons why they were able to win had to do with the kinds of information that was given to them. With the intention that, let me flirt with these people, so if the NDC government makes me the Electoral Commission, they will not oppose me. This was the reason. People can deny that, but that is the reason. Now, Unfortunately, the person was not made the electoral commission. Afarijan was never interested, or Dr. Afarijan was never interested in the daily operations of the electoral commission. When I say never interested, his focus was about elections. So the other operational activities were not handled by him. Okay? Because I'm saying this, there is a criminal matter. There is thievery which is being handled by the Yoko on this matter. Now you have Mrs. Charlotte Osei, who had been appointed as NCCE boss, and who is, I'm told, a corporate lawyer. Now, they share walls. NCCE and Electoral Commission shares walls. So everything that was going on within the Electoral Commission, of course, she could know. Now, where I blame the naivety of the woman. When the woman was made the Electoral Commission, she should have known that the very people who were bent on becoming the Electoral commissioners or Electoral Commissioner and never got it will fight you. She should have known. 2, she came and she took particular interest in many of the things Dr. Afarijan was not so much interested in. The daily operations, and that is where the chop is. She took particular interest because where she worked, she knew what was going on at the Electoral Commission. But she should have also known that coming to fight corruption, deep-rooted corruption in an institution like the Electoral Commission, you are bound to face obstacles, sometimes very dangerous obstacles, because every revolution comes with its profound consequences. The woman should have known, and that is where I think that she was a bit naive. She should have known that this battle I'm going to fight is going to create a lot of problems. Now, a so-called petition was sent, and I said I am happy Ambassador started before me, because everybody is hiding behind the Article 146. The framers of the Constitution, and I stand to be corrected, Your Excellency, the framers of the Constitution, when they said that if a petition is sent for the impeachment of the Electoral Commission or any of the justices, not specifically even the Electoral Commission, the President has no any other option than to do what? To forward that petition to the Chief Justice. Now, if the President would have to forward the petition to the Chief Justice, I believe the framers of the Constitution would have known what constitutes a petition, isn't it, Your Excellency? So the spirit of the yes, what constitutes a petition? And my understanding and the understanding of many, if not all, of that anything that doesn't have a signature and names behind it cannot be deemed as a petition. Now, in this country, we're there. When Eugene Ahin, who speaks for the presidency, was it a statement he issued that they have received a petition? When journalists wanted to know the faces behind the petition and those who signed, because that is what a proper petition is supposed to be, he said there were no signatures to it, isn't it? We didn't even know the faces. So what it means is that ab initio that could not be described as a petition. Now, only for us to be told that they have forwarded the petition, so-called petition, to the Chief Justice, I have 2 questions to ask. Is it that the presidency, who told us that there were no signatures to the petition, is it that they called those who submitted it to come back and sign? That's 1. 2, or they asked them to withdraw the first one and resubmit a proper petition. Now, either way, the presidency would have compromised. They would have indeed demonstrated their absolute interest in that petition. Now, I want to believe that the Chief Justice certainly will not empanel a committee to investigate this issue if the Chief Justice was not convinced that a proper petition was submitted. So I am inclined to believe that the presidency asked the people to come and sign, or they asked them to submit a new petition. This we haven't been told, because the Chief Justice, I can't believe the Chief Justice would want to work on something that is not qualified to be described as as a petition. So I don't want to falter the Chief Justice here. They would have worked on a proper document called a petition, which has names and which has signatures to it. So that's one. So the presidency would have to answer. And I believe that is why the lawyers of Mrs. Charlotte Osei have written to the presidency demanding the original petition. This original petition cannot be provided, because if they provide the original petition, in which we were already told by the spokesperson for the presidency that there were no signatures, if they provide a petition with signatures, the question that will be asked is, when did they have these signatures, and why were we not told? Who asked them to come and do the signatures? And if they provided it's a petition with signatures, then we'll also find out, is it that a new petition was submitted? So the presidency will not be able to do that. And once this information is provided, the entire process would have been completely dead. That is one. Two, the electoral commissioner and the other commissioners were written to by the Chief Justice that they have established a prima facie and that they were going to commence investigation. Therefore, they empaneled what's the name? A committee. But in that same letter, warned them not to make public comments on the matter, and that making public comments on the matter would amount to contempt. Okay? Now, the people haven't made any public comment. Your daily guide will publish falsehood every single day against not all the petitioner, but Mrs. Charlotte Osei. Now, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, I guess, and one of the commissioners actually wrote to the Chief Justice, you have warned us not to make public comments on this. Your daily guide publishes falsehood about us every single day. We can't comment. We can't respond. Our integrity is being attacked because you have warned us. As we sit today, the Chief Justice had not written to them about the position or written to Daily Guide telling them that what they were doing was not right and that they could also be cited for contempt. Yesterday, my good friend said that they shouldn't have written to the Chief Justice. They should have gone to court. Gone to court on what matter? Because Daily Guide is publishing a story. That is another issue that ought to be looked at. Now, the other thing is that they were there when someone who wrote to them, describing himself as the secretary to the committee that was set up by the Chief Justice. Now, they have provided the names of the members of the committee except one. Now, Your Excellency, wouldn't natural justice and fair trial demands that they ought to know the members of the committee? If you have an objection against any member for bias, you could raise that. They haven't been informed. They haven't been told. And that is where I have a very big problem with the Chief Justice, that she should be the last person. My understanding of either criminal or civil trial is that it is indeed anchored on fairness. It is anchored on natural justice. Now, all these things have been ramshackled. They have been disregarded. Now, I have also listened to another narrative by the NPP. The NDC are always defending the Electoral Commission. Anytime they raise that, and I'll tell our communicators, also find out from them why they are all attacking the Electoral Commission. Now, we should not shy away from the fact that, yes, we are defending the Electoral Commission because we are defending the fundamentals, one of the pillars of our democratic governance. That is why we are defending. We are defending because the woman was appointed by the NDC government under the presidency of President Mahama, and due process was followed. At no point in time did anybody raise any issue about the processes leading to the appointment and the approval, if you like, of the Electoral Commission. Nobody has raised a finger. What we do know is that when the woman was appointed at NCC, they didn't have any problem with that. In fact, some of them commended the woman for appointing the president, for appointing the woman as the NCC boss, isn't it? Now, the moment the woman was appointed, you had Kennedy Japan and other leading members of the NPP who attacked the woman, a married woman, Canada, Japan described her a prostitute. Every single decent-minded Ghanaian, every single decent-minded political party, civil society group, non-governmental organization, including international community, condemned Canada, Japan. The only political party that refused to condemn that statement was the NPP. You had their acting national secretary, or one of their national executive, when he was asked why they didn't connect, he said, that most of the things Canada, Japan says, when you follow them, they turns out to be what? To be true, and therefore they could not. I agree. Let's agree by that logic. The fact that people are paying $20,000 and $30,000 allegations made by Canada, Japan is true. So the NPP did not hide their hatred for this woman. They didn't hide the fact that they had problems with this woman. But you see, what is London, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, and the other two deputies, in this case, is nothing but greed and selfishness. They thought that they were just going to do that, get the woman out and be there. One thing I can assure the government is that Mrs. Charlotte Osei is not moving an inch. And the president will be held personally responsible for any chaos and anarchy as a result of this reckless conduct. They have not hidden it. I am yet to see one single MPP member or leader who condemns this. In this country, you have a president who goes about bragging how he has appointed women. How many women appointed? The woman was not appointed on the basis of her just being a woman. She was appointed because she's very capable to handle that post. You think that the woman must go. This same woman conducted elections. This same woman, and you won. Now, if you think that the woman is so discredited, then I think that you should relinquish the governance of this country. Now, His Excellency made those points. That how can you have an allegations? We were told there were 17 petitioners, 18. Now we are told there are 2. You know what happened? These 2 drivers went with that petition at the Electoral Commission, convinced other drivers and other junior staff members to sign. They never informed them that it was a petition for impeachment. When they signed and the issue came up and they realized that what they were deceived to sign had to do with the impeachment of the Electoral Commission, they demanded, in fact, they virtually lynched one of the drivers at the Electoral Commission. They demanded their names be expunged. Because if you don't, and the issue comes and say, look, we were forced, we didn't even know what we're saying, it kills the entire story. So that is why the presidency cannot provide the original petition. 2 drivers. With all due respect to drivers, are drivers part of management? Are they? Now, doesn't natural justice, or if you like fair trial, demands that the woman must know who is accusing me? I need to know. The woman has actually written again to the Chief Justice. She wants to know those accusing. Look, even in civil proceedings or whatever, when they serve you a writ of someone, they would indicate in it the case, the plaintiff. They will indicate all those things. These things have not been done. So I'm saying that, look, let's make it very, very clear to the NPP and this government. If they think that we're going to sit by and shut up like timorous souls and they do what they want to do, they are joking. If we allow this thing to happen, and I mean, sometimes I get extremely shocked that you have a president who is touted as a human rights lawyer, as someone who dedicated his entire life in the defense of constitutionalism and democratic governance. Under his watch, I have every reason to believe that President Nana-Addo is not in charge. I have every reason to believe. And in fact, because if he is in charge and knowing what he stood for, I can't believe that these things are happening. I can't. But you see, the agenda is to achieve 2 things. 1, let's try to see whether we can succeed in getting Mrs. Charlotte Osei out. And if we don't succeed in doing that, let's succeed in discrediting her. Let's question her integrity. Let's bruise her. So that in the event of the 2020 elections, which inshallah they will lose. They will use her discredit as a basis to reject the elections. That is what they are doing. That is the agenda of this government. So let's try. Maybe if the NDC and the other political party, you have PNC national, is it treasurer, issuing a statement. Of course. If you are chopping at large, why won't you issue such statements? My kid brother issuing a statement. The national chairman, I'm told, says, look, they are not aware of such. They haven't even had a meeting. A serious political party, a treasurer cannot just issue a statement, or even you would have had a meeting, and through that meeting you take a decision. What has been the NDC position on this? Is it about we sitting here condemn and that ends it? NDC ought to appreciate the psyche of the MPP and the Buze Danko tradition. And if we underestimate what they can do, we are making a very big mistake. These people think that only they were created to govern, to lead this country. That's how they think. They are the paragons of knowledge. They understand democracy and politics than any other persons. Only they are fit to rule this country. And that any other person who has the opportunity to rule this country does so through fluke. More so when they are desperate. When they have realized very clearly that power is slipping away. The MPP has never been desperate than they are today. So they will do everything possible to ensure that they succeed in doing what they are doing. His Excellency started by saying that everybody thought it was a joke. As a matter of fact, I never thought it was a joke. And I stated that this wasn't a joke. Look, they move and the momentum is gathered day by day. And of course, they use a section of the media. And you understand, that section of the media, anytime the MPP zigs, they zags. They see nothing wrong. It is not about women. It is not about gender. If this thing had happened under NDC, you would have heard them shouting that women are attacked. Where are they? Of course, Charlotte will say, for her, she is not a woman. She's a man, and that is why they are not interested. CDD, where are they? IE, where are they? Those so-called protectors of democracy, where are they? Don't they have problems with the processes? Don't they? Today, the criminal aspects of it, which is being investigated by Yoko, is pushed to the back burner. Nobody is interested in it. Nobody cares about what is happening. The woman must go. The simple question I think that CDD and IEA and some of those hypocritical organizations should be asking themselves, that even in the unlikely event of they getting this woman out and appoint another person, they think that that person will also have the support of the NDC. They are joking. They are joking. They are. So the point I'm making is that why are they? They should let us have a live coverage of the impeachment process. We demand, just as they came out and demanded that we should have a live coverage of the petition, we demand a live coverage of the impeachment processes so that those so-called petitioners can also be subjected. The petitioners are their lawyers are 3 known MPP lawyers. Very known MPP lawyers. Very known. I think that the NDC should stop pretending. We should also get our best of brains to defend the woman, because we have a moral duty and a responsibility to defend this democracy. After all, the democracy we have today, the 4th Republican Constitution, it took the NDC at that time to do it. All the reforms, the electoral reforms that we have had, happened under the NDC. All the electoral reforms that we have had happened under the NDC. So I think that the NDC ought to be, it's not about you have an NDC, a national executive person who would go on radio and comment. I commend the deputy national secretary, but we should go beyond that. We should have an official position. We should have an official position. Because if they can buy a section of the media, they can't buy us. There are still very genuine and honest journalists and media men in this country. And you know what they do to those people? They constantly attack and insult and abuse them. I listened to Comrade Kweku Baku, and let me commend him on Metro TV, who spoke to the facts. You know what? Monitor their radio stations. They attack him, but he has always defended you people. When he's defending you, he's the saint. When he's questioning your conduct on this matter, you have a problem. I rest my case.
Thank you, Comrade, for your submission. It brings us to 10 a.m. here on your power station, Radio Gold 90.5. We are also live on GFM Radio London, Sekpela 104.3 in Lepe, Shine 96.9 in Akachi, Lukusi Radio 96.1 in Vet Golokwati, Global FM 105.1 in Home, Radio Pando 102.5. Mr. Pratt.
First of all, I think it's absolutely important to make the point that the matter we are discussing is a very serious matter which touches at the very foundations of our democratic experiment. I believe very, very strongly that the matter we are discussing is far more important and has consequences which goes beyond the political parties, all of them. The New Patriotic Party, the National Democratic Congress, the Convention People's Party, the People's National Convention, and all of them put together. At the end of the day, what we'll be doing will be writing a testimonial about our commitment to democracy. At the end of the day, we'll be writing a testimonial about the efficacy of our judicial processes. At the end of the day, we'll be writing a testimonial about tolerance in our political system and so on. And this matter is so very important that I think in discussions of it, our objective ought to be how to ensure that at the end of the day, whatever prevails is fair. That at the end of the day, whatever prevails is legal and constitutional. And that at the end of the day, justice ought to be transparent in all the processes that we have adopted. So, now many people have made reference to Article 146 of the Constitution, and they have argued that is the basis of the impeachment process and so on. I want to submit that the Constitution is very clear that any citizen of Ghana can, and indeed should, and because we are enjoined to defend the Constitution, we are enjoined to uphold certain values and so on as citizens. And as far as I'm concerned, those are obligations of citizens. Every citizen has a right to ensure that the Constitution and its provisions are upheld. It's an obligation, and so on. So, to that extent, the Constitution enjoins us, as citizens of Ghana, if we have reason to believe that practices of certain key appointees or even elected officers are in flagrant violation of the Constitution, undermine the exercise of democratic rights, and so on, to petition for the removal of those officers, those persons from offices that they hold. These officers are many and varied. They may include the Chief Justice, Justices of the Supreme Court, Justices of the Appeal Court, and so on. They may actually include members of the National Commission on Civic Education, the Electoral Commission, and other bodies, and so on. Now, the Constitution says that in exercise of our constitutional right to kickstart the process of impeachment, we ought to send to the President petitions for impeachment. Now, there are many who have argued that when the President receives a petition for impeachment, the President merely acts as a post office and passes it on to the Chief Justice. Now, I want us to be minded by the language in the Constitution. The language in the Constitution is that the President must receive a petition for impeachment. I'm sure that the Constitution set aside or differentiates between a petition for impeachment and a petition for an administrative procedure to be carried out. There must be ingredients, there must be certain ingredients which makes a formal letter or communication to the President a petition for impeachment. There must be some ingredients. Otherwise, any paper sent to the President can be deemed to be a petition for impeachment. So this particular case raises the question of what is a petition for impeachment. And in answering this question, in this particular case, I think it's important to look at many other developments, including the Constitution itself. Now, if you look at the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, and you look at Article 278, Article 278 empowers the President to set up commissions of inquiry. Not to use the process of impeachment, but commissions of inquiry. And listen to Article 278. 1, it says, subject to Article 5 of this Constitution, the President shall, by constitutional instrument, appoint a commission of inquiry into any matter of public interest, where the President is satisfied that a commission of inquiry should be appointed. So if the President is satisfied that a commission of inquiry should be appointed, he can, according to this Constitution, appoint a commission of inquiry to look into any matter. B, the Council of State advises that it is in the public interest to do so. So the Council of State can also advise the President to set up a commission of inquiry. Parliament, by resolution, requests that a commission of inquiry be appointed to inquire into any matter specified in the resolution as being a matter of public importance. You understand? And it goes on and on and on, but I like to limit myself to this. So it follows that at some point, it is possible at some point in the life of a presidency to receive a petition which may lead to the establishment of a commission of inquiry outside the process of impeachment. Yeah. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And for example, if there are stated cases of violation of law and so on, which are not weighty enough to warrant impeachment, the President may then elect to set up a commission of inquiry rather than to go through the impeachment process. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So, therefore, given that there are different options open to the President, we need to ask, how does the president exercise one option as against the other? How does the president exercise one option as against the other?
Yeah.
The very Constitution, 1992 Constitution, even when it comes to discretion, says that the exercise of discretion should not be capricious. What does that mean? It means that even when it comes to the exercise of discretion, certain principles need to be applied. It means that when it comes to the exercise of discretion, certain procedures need to be applied in order for the decision not to be capricious. Now, there's one principle that I like to dwell on. And I said even yesterday that there's no legal or constitutional principle which upholds notions of infallibility on anybody's part. No legal or constitutional principle upholds infallibility. It is for that reason that you have a hierarchy of courts. Because the underlying principle is one of human infallibility. So if you go to the magistrate court and you are not satisfied, you can appeal. If the circuit court makes a determination and you are not satisfied, you can appeal. All the way up to the Supreme Court. Even Supreme Court decisions can come up for review because it is assumed that being in human institutions, they can be fallible. I hope you understand the point I'm making up to this point. So now we have a petition or an alleged petition or an assumed petition which has gone to the president. Now, I think it is purely legitimate and proper for ordinary citizens like me who have not gone to any school near Makola to ask how the president came to determine that this is a petition for impeachment. I would submit that one of the ingredients of a petition for impeachment ought to be that the petition itself claims to be a petition for impeachment. You understand? It must be there. In that petition, there must be a request, a demand for impeachment. So the petition itself ought to claim that it is a petition for impeachment. You understand? That's basic. There ought to be petitioners. Because if you don't have petitioners, you cannot have a petition. So now we are looking at the ingredients which go into the determination of a petition. Now, you can send a petition to the president, which is not a petition for impeachment. And indeed, in this particular case, we are told that there were two identical petitions. One of the petitions went to the president, and the other one went to Yoko. Given the fact that Yoko has no powers and no part to play in the process of impeachment, it will stand to reason that the petition which went to Yoko was not for impeachment. Now, if the same petition which went to Yoko went to the presidency, and the petition which went to Yoko was not for impeachment, how can the one which went to the president be for impeachment? These are legitimate questions which ought to be asked. And indeed, we are asking these legitimate questions because the Constitution itself prescribes that these matters should be dealt with in camera. And therefore, we don't have the full facts. But the facts we have suggest clearly that there were two identical petitions. One went to Yoko, one went to the presidency. Identical petitions. The one to Yoko was not for impeachment. And if they were indeed identical, how come that the one which went to the presidency is for impeachment? Legitimate question. Now, if the president were to receive a letter complaining about the fact that Mrs. Charlotte Osei or the other commissioner, Georgina, and Amadou Sule, they go to office in high heels. The three of them go to office in high heels. Would that amount to a petition which has to be forwarded by the president acting as a post office to the Chief Justice? Legitimate question. So the contents of whatever is believed to be a petition are important in this discussion. Okay? And indeed, it is established that the president is not a post office. And the president, ipso facto, has to make certain determinations before he forwards whatever goes to him to the Chief Justice. Otherwise, it is possible that the president can be forwarding rubbish to the Chief Justice. I'm sure we've all heard the chief psychiatrist of Ghana, having claimed that a very large percentage of the Ghanaian population is not balanced. No, this is a claim made by the chief psychiatrist, that a very large percentage of our population is not balanced. You understand? And I'm being very moderate with my language and so on. So it is possible that this unbalanced segment of our population can also be sending things to the president. Are we saying that if the president receives notes from the unbalanced segment of our society and so on, he will forward them to the Chief Justice for impeachment? And in fact, at face value, some of these claims don't make sense. And I was talking about my own experience a couple of weeks ago, sitting in my office, when a well-dressed gentleman walked in and claimed that he's entitled to 10% of all the monies we have received from the World Bank, because the World Bank gave us those resources because of him. You understand? Obviously, unbalanced segment of our society is part of the unbalanced segment of our society and so on. Assuming that this person went to the presidency and claimed that God had spoken to him, wrote a petition, that God had spoken to him that morning, and that God had told him that that morning the apparel that Charlotte Osei wore to work was green, and that God is so angry, and that if Charlotte Osei is not removed from office, a calamity will hit Ghana, and therefore is calling for impeachment. Would the president forward such a petition to the Chief Justice? Now, if the president would not forward such a petition to the Chief Justice, it clearly established that there ought to be a criteria for determining what goes to the Chief Justice and what does not go to the Chief Justice. I think my point has been sufficiently made at this point. Then, when the petition has gone to the Chief Justice is supposed to determine whether a prima facie case has been established. That process is also not a capricious process. Indeed, it's a judicial process which must be informed by law, which must be informed by processes, well-defined processes and so on. You understand? The Chief Justice ought to be able to justify her decision that a prima facie case has been established on the basis of law. It's not a capricious decision. And I think it's important also to establish that. Now, thereafter, the Chief Justice then is empowered to set up a committee, and it's specified. It has to be headed by a judge and so on. All those things are specified. I'm not going to go into them. to now look into the substantive matters that the Chief Justice refers to the committee. For the committee to make recommendations to the president. So the matter goes back to the president for determination and so on. Now, this is the process. I'd like to look at some other things. Initially, and we could all be wrong, because all of us are making our decisions and contributing to discussions on the basis of media expose. I haven't seen a copy of the petition. I'm only reading from the media and listening from the media and watching from the media. So we could all be wrong. But we are told that initially 60 persons signed the petition, or not signed the petition. That the lawyers who were acting on the case were acting on behalf of 60 employees of the Electoral Commission. That's the proper thing to say. Subsequently, we were told that the number of petitioners had whittled down to 17. Now, the media is reporting that the number of petitioners has whittled down to 2. A section of the media is emphatic that the number of petitioners is 2. Another section of the media is telling us that the 2 indeed are acting for an undisclosed number of employees of the Electoral Commission. What is the truth? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Only the Chief Justice and the President know what the truth is. But you see, there are legitimate questions to pose. One of the most legitimate questions is this. Granted that the lawyers believed or were made to believe that they were acting on behalf of 60 petitioners, what happened to reduce the number from 60 to 17? Could it be, may it be, that the 43 or so of the petitioners came to the realization that they were doing the wrong thing and therefore decided to pull out? Could it be that there had been nation, that some people had used names and so on, and so on? So there are all kinds. Now, for the many possibilities that emerge, if you take any single one of them, it raises substantial questions. Let us assume that of the 60 which initially contracted the lawyers to act on their behalf, some found out later that actually what they wanted was not impeachment. They wanted something else and therefore decided to withdraw. What does that do to that petition? And we are talking about a reduction from 60 petitioners to 17 petitioners. It does something to the quality of the petition. Certainly does something to the quality of the petition. Now, if you come to the current situation, where we are told, and again we cannot confirm, that there are only 2 petitioners, if we accept the original figure of 60 petitioners, it will be a reduction from 60 to 2. Significant reduction. And there ought to be reasons for this significant reduction. Let's put that aside. Now, the moment the president receives a petition, that is, if we agree that all the ingredients of petitions are present and so on, the moment the president receives a petition, a process has kick-started. The receipt of the petition itself is part of the process. So the moment the president receives the petition, the process has started. Now, Ambassador Sampi Yali is a lawyer. So when it comes to issues of law and so on, I think that we will defer to him. You understand? As a layman, one of the things that I've been told about the law, which I believe to be true, is that accused persons or those against whom allegations are made, especially in judicial processes such as impeachment and so on, have a right to know the accusers.
Oh, even in ordinary criminal cases, charges are perfect.
Fantastic. They have a right to know the accusers. If they do not know the accusers, the process is unfair. And indeed may lead to invalidation of process because they do not know the accusers. At this stage, I'm just wondering. Just wondering. The three commissioners, do they know their accusers?
The petitioners, you mean?
Yeah, the petitioners are the accusers. So the three commissioners, do they know the petitioners who happen to be their accusers? And if they don't know their petitioners, and they do not know who the accusers are, what is the status of the process which has already begun? A process which has already led to the determination that there's a prima facie case against them. What is the quality of that process, given the fact that the petitioners may be unknown? What is the validity of that process? And in what way have the rights of the persons being investigated been infringed upon or upheld? This is an open question that we can all discuss. Now, in the course of this week, newspaper reports also told us that at least Madam Charlotte Osei had written to the presidency for a copy of the petition, which would suggest that the persons who are going through the impeachment process do not even know the allegations which have been made against them,
Defend themselves.
or do not know the initial allegations which were made against them.
All right.
Okay? Because again, we've had reports which say that the Chief Justice has actually written to them, setting out the matters for determination in the process. You understand? But at least we can say for sure that at least Madam Charlotte Osei has not seen the original petition against her. Because if she's seen it, why is she requesting for it? Or at least she has not formally seen the petition. Now, this letter, allegedly written by Madam Charlotte Osei and forwarded to the Flagstaff House, has received interesting responses, at least as far as the newspapers and so on are concerned. The first time I read a response was a response which simply said that the Flagstaff House does not have a copy. I almost collapsed. You understand? And I said to myself, what administrative processes are applied in the Flagstaff House when petitions of this nature received by the presidency? There are no copies of them on the files and so on. Thankfully, Mr. Eugene Ahin, who is the communications director of the Flagstaff House, came to explain that indeed they have a copy. And his claim is that, look, the presidency has no obligation to make the copies available to the persons who are facing the impeachment process. And as far as they are concerned, the matter has been referred to the Chief Justice. And therefore, those who need copies need to go to the Chief Justice. Now, mind you, I've already established, or tried to establish the fact that the receipt of the petition kickstarts the process. So if you're talking about the rights of persons against whom a process has already been initiated and so on, it starts from the presidency. And if you assert that the receipt of the petition it kickstarts the process, then indeed they are entitled to copies of the petition which was forwarded to the Chief Justice, because in forwarding the petition to the Chief Justice, the process had already been kick-started. I hope you get what I'm saying. Now, there are other issues, which, as far as I'm concerned, are absolutely important. The Constitution, I think it's Article 146. Yeah, Article 146 prescribes that the process of impeachment should be held in camera. And I want to believe that there are very, very sound reasons, why the process ought to be held in camera. These are sensitive public positions. Electoral Commission. 3 members of the commission, including the chairperson, are facing impeachment procedure. Indeed, you can have impeachment procedure against the Chief Justice and other shraj and so on. I suppose that the constitutional requirement that the proceedings should be held in camera is to protect their integrity and credibility, such that if they are found not to be guilty of the allegations which have been made, they can come back and practice with full integrity and all of that. I suppose that that is the reason. Now, what is happening now? Every turn and twist in this case is on the front pages of the paper. And sometimes you are even wondering, what is on the front page? Is it true? Because there is no attribution. Many times it says sources close. Usually reliable sources and so on. I think that what is happening in the media is an offense of the Constitution. Because the Constitution prescribes in-camera hearing. The repeated reporting of facts, fiction, and all does not help uphold the provisions of the Constitution which insist on in-camera hearing. It is not in the interest of the persons who are appearing before this impeachment process, and it is not in the interest of the people of Ghana that the trial has been extended into the media, and I'm very deeply worried about it. Now, I'm holding in my hands right now today's edition of the Ghanaian Times. And I refer in particular to page 9 of the Ghanaian Times of today. And I like to read it. EC officials can't work together if exonerated. MP. And it says, Member of Parliament for Fantiakwa South constituency in the Eastern region, Kofi Ochre Ajekum, has stated that a new set of Electoral Commission officials must be appointed to occupy the positions of the 3 Electoral Commission officials under investigation. So he's saying that whether the commissioners are innocent or not, sack them. This is a member of Parliament. Indeed, is an honorable member of Parliament, a highly respected member of our society. He doesn't end there, and this is in quotes. This state will not be safe. This is in quotes. This state, that the state of Ghana, will not be safe should we keep the 3 EC officials in office, because that particular office in which they occupy on behalf of the state is very sensitive and cannot contain their caliber of lack of credibility per contentions hovering around them. Now, if this statement is not prejudicial, what other statement can be prejudicial? A matter before the Chief Justice, who has set up a committee to investigate, and we are told that their credibility is in tatters. Their credibility is so much in tatters that they can no longer occupy sensitive positions. And he talks about their caliber of lack of credibility. Caliber of lack of credibility. He goes on, and it's in quotations again. I want to know why members of the NDC keep charging President Akufo-Addo and members of the NPP for intentionally finding every means within their capacity to remove EC Boss from her posts, Mr. Ajekum queried, and so on, you know. Now, I read this particular case not because of the MP. It's not because of him. I do not want to personalize it at all for 1 minute. But I read it as an example of the commentary in the media by responsible officials and responsible citizens. And I cringe anytime I read these comments or hear these comments, because it is very, very exceedingly prejudicial. And it's being made by political party leaders and so on and so forth. Now, I've also heard some comments that we have to be fair to Madam Charlotte Osei, that the law ought to apply to her. We have to apply the law, feature to Madam Charlotte Osei. That we have to make sure that at the end of the case, justice triumphs, and so on. I have no serious problems with these claims and suggestions. But I'm just wondering, why Madam Charlotte Osei alone? Commissioner Amadou Sule also deserves fairness. He deserves justice, and so on, just like Madam Charlotte Osei. The other lady, Madam Georgina, what is her name? Amankwa, also deserves fairness and justice. Everybody involved in this process deserves fairness and justice. The petitioners themselves also deserve fairness and justice. In fact, the petitioners have rights which should be upheld. Not just that, the Chief Justice who is involved in this process also deserves fairness, justice, and her rights ought to be upheld. The Chief Justice is involved in this process. She's also entitled to respect. She's entitled to justice. She's entitled to fairness like everybody else. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is also involved in this process. Is also entitled to fair treatment and so on. Everybody in the process. All of us in our collective as the people of Ghana are also entitled to some fairness and so on. So it would appear strange, and indeed it is very, very strange, that many public commentators have just focused attention on the rights of Madam Charlotte Osei and the need for her to be treated fairly and so on. Everybody should be treated fairly before the law. It is not just Madam Charlotte Osei and so on. So that's an important dimension. Now, some have said that the genie is out of the bottle already. And indeed, to a very large extent, I agree with them. Because facts which should not have been public now are public. I mean, if you follow the constitutional injunction that the process ought to be in camera and so on, some of the facts that we are discussing today needn't have been in the public domain. They are in the public domain. Now, you have a situation where ministers of states are commenting on the case openly. Where high-profile journalists and so on are commenting on the case openly. Where lawyers of repute are commenting on the case openly and so on. What can we do in order to return to sanity for the processes to proceed as prescribed by the Constitution without undue public comment and influence. That's a challenge before the Chief Justice. It's a challenge before all of us as professional journalists and so on. It's a challenge that we must meet. How are we going to meet that challenge? I don't know. But that challenge has to be met in order to return to the sanctity of the law and judicial processes. We ought to be able to meet this challenge. Now, at the end of the day, the issue which has to be addressed is not who appointed Madam Charlotte Osei, who appointed Amadou Sule, and who appointed Madam Georgina Amankwa. That is not the issue for determination. At the end of the day, the issue for determination is whether they have done things which make it impossible for them to continue to function as commissioners of our electoral commission. And in that determination, we ought to ensure that the law is applied rigorously. That's the end of my submission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt, for your submission. A few of your text messages that have come through this morning, some in the form of tweets, some in the form of text messages on Facebook, numerous. I'll take the time to go through all of these messages. This one from Abdul Salam Kasalgu. Now he says, the seed God favors grows without rain. Mrs. Charlotte Osei will continue to be the EC chair no matter how heavy the false allegations leveled against her by the NPP. We are waiting for 2020. Cecil Adokli says, there are no neutrals in politics. Dr. David Percy, so the Chief Justice cannot be said to be a neutral. Habib Insawom said, good morning to you. The political witch hunt on Charlotte Osei is as dangerous as than anybody could imagine, and if care is not taken, every success that Ghana has chopped democratically over the years would just be eroded. Delanyo Agbe says, Sam, the unfortunate attempt to remove the EC chair is an attack on our democracy, which is dangerous for upcoming elections. Hadi Ahmed says, you promised the good people of Ghana so many things. Instead of you to work to fulfill those promises, you are doing political witch hunting. Sensible Ghanaians must stand up against this barbaric behavior by the NPP. This one says, I stand with Charlotte Osei. Instead of the government solving the numerous challenges and crises this economy is facing, President Akufo-Addo is going about seeking to witch hunt Charlotte Osei. Idrisu ABA Husseini tweets and says, President Akufo-Addo should not extend his incompetence to the EC boss. Any attempt to remove the EC boss will create problems for our future elections. Those are a few of the tweets that have come through this morning. Let me go through the few text messages on Facebook. This one from Stephen Kwabna Atu. He says, is it not possible to say that if the Electoral Commissioner, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, is so corrupt and unable to conduct the affairs of the Commission, then all activities she undertook in the past can be said to have been done under the same corruption tag, hence invalidating the elections that announced Akufo-Addo as President of the Republic. I'm just thinking aloud. I thought the exercise of political power is not unite and not what we are seeing today. It's to unite and not what we are seeing today. I believe that's what Stephen, you meant to say. Chigbe Michael Sayam says, very lengthy one. Good morning, Mr. Shen, and your panelists kindly read in full. I hope I do, but I'm sure I'll just read up to maybe the second paragraph or so. First of all, I think we are mixing the issues here. There are no petition to the CJ against the other two commissioners other than the chairperson of the EC for her removal. Again, a petition is a formal written letter duly signed by people or individuals requesting the authority for a particular cause. So now, if the president is just a conduit or postboy to the CJ, why then did the presidency temper with the petition and later call the petitioners to come and amend their own petition? Again, the president wasn't in town before the petition was sent to the Flagstaff House. So does the special aide to the president have the authority to read the petition and call for the amendment? Why was the receipt of the petition being announced to the public when the Constitution says such a petition should be handled in camera? Those are your comments that you have sent through this morning. I believe I've seen a few others. Okay, the very first one that came through, Musa Abatua says, Session, Madam Charlotte says, case started with faceless petition. Later, 17 signatures appeared and 2 petitioners showing now. The sequence of events tells you something is hidden under the carpet. Any attempt to desperately and politically jeopardize the EC's independence will be resisted by the masses. The petition lacks true sense of judgment. It's a political gimmick. Musa Abatwa, you sent that one through. AU Farouk in Tamale says, good morning, you and to your panelists. In fact, any attempt by this incompetent and substandard MPP government and their cronies to remove the 3 commissioners will surely bend the country's image. President Nado and the CJ must be careful about the future of our beloved country. Those are a few of your comments that have managed to come through. Prekese Kwame Aristocrat sends a message from Kaswa Old Barrier. He says, during the investigation, the accused is allowed to see his or her charges and documentary evidence the accusers have against him or her. When Bugri Nabo and Otuku Jaba accused each of murder and corruption, another called them to the Flagstaff House and settled the issue. When a petitioner petitioned Mahama to impeach the then Shraj boss, it was clear that it was Richard Nyama, a known MPP man who wanted the woman to be impeached. God is watching all of us. Prekese Kwame Aristocrat sent that message through this morning. You're still here with us on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. We are live on GFM Radio in London, Secular 104.3 in Lekwe, Shine 96.9 in Akachi Global FM 105.1. In Ho, Radio Pando 102.5, Lukusi Radio 96.1, and I welcome you if you just join us. We certainly do have some 1 hour, 15 more minutes to go before we check out and hand you over to the sports team to take over with the gold sports. We'll start off with our second issue, which is the matter of the outbreak of diseases on the campuses of our SHSs. Could the Ghana Health Service have handled it better? Analyze the statement by the Ghana Health Service that it's as a result of congestion vis-a-vis the Vice President's statement that the condition or the situation has been contained. I'll start with you, Comrade Mutala.
Sean, let me say that.
All right.
My first statement is that the Minister for Health and Minister of Education should resign. If they fail to resign, they should be forced to jump. I say this because we are talking about the lives of several compatriots of ours. It is the wish of every parent that you give birth to kids, take care of them. I don't have kids who are up to the age of being in SSS, but I believe that both Comrade Kwesi and Ambassador, they had even who have finished universities. And I believe that when their kids got to the senior secondary school, that was the beginning of their hoping that, of course, the several years of investment on the kids, financially, morally, socially, and everything, was coming to fruition. That the expectation is that once your kid finishes SSS and qualifies, at least she gets into tertiary education, and by which time you will be getting to the end of your frustrations about, because once they finish tertiary, they become men, and of course can live on their own, regardless how meager the salary may be. We have a case in which we had one school. Remember, it started at Kumaka. Sometime March, April, we had, I think, about 7 students who lost their lives in that school. Nothing was said about it. We didn't hear much. It was just reported, and that ended it. Now, if you have one institution, secondary school, and where you have 7 students losing their lives in that school, I guess in 1 month, this should be of cosmic concern to any responsible minister and any responsible government. As a matter of fact, in some jurisdictions, the president can even make a statement to that effect. Because what happened there was a symptom of what could happen in other institutions. Nothing was said about it. Now, just last month, we had same school. We were told 2 died, 3 died in that order, and a lot of the students were taken ill. It coincided at the same time the funeral of the late mother of the Asantehene, in which you had both the Minister of Education and Minister of Health, who have all visited Kumasi, participated in that funeral 2 times, including His Excellency the President. My understanding is that the managers of the school, and I stand to be corrected, the managers of the school did not want it to get out of because they were celebrating their 60th anniversary, in which His Excellency the President attended. So some investigation thoroughly ought to be done about this. Is it true that because of the 60th anniversary, not much was done about it? We are also being told that they could not close down the school because they didn't want it to mar the beauty of the 60th anniversary that they were celebrating. Your Excellency, if we had 2 people dying in a result of similar incident, His Excellency the President would have tweeted expressing his sympathy to the American President and the American people. These are serious matters, very serious matters, that we have almost 20 or more who have died in that school within this year alone. I listened to one of the radio stations, pro-government radio stations. I really do not. I think I tuned to read one, even I think Oman, one of the radio stations. And they said that the heads of institutions who are reporting cases of death, that they are NDC people and that they are doing it deliberately to undermine this government. Oman FM. That was the day before yesterday. They have a program they call it Boiling Point. I don't listen to it. I was just tuning. I went for a program at what's the name? A TV station. On my way, so I was just tuning the radio station. When I got to there, I had interest. It was in Twi, and these were the statements they made, that it was deliberate. Now, how can any head of institution do politics with death of students under their care? It is not as if someone has reported that a particular student died, and it is not true. It is indeed true that students are dying. One of the reasons why this government did not want us and did not want to talk much about it, because the moment they begin to raise issues about it, then people will begin to question the shambolic implementation of the free SHS. It has every single thing to do with it. Cerebrospinal meningitis is as a result of heat. And in fact, in the northern Ghana, northern part of the country, during the heat seasons, we are being encouraged by doctors to drink a lot of water. And that if you can sleep in the open space, such that you can enjoy free, air breeze, it's better. Now you have instances where you choke about 100 students in one dormitory. One. The heat is abnormal. Now, the other serious case about this had to do with the true cause of the death. We had different reportage. The Ministry of Education was telling us something different. The Ministry of Health was telling us something different. Doctors who indeed attended to these kids were telling us something different. Government, Ministry of Information, they were telling us something different. Now, what they are doing now, the fumigation in that school, the testing, the quarantine, what they are doing now, couldn't they have done that in March, April, when we had 7 students unfortunately dying in that school? Couldn't they have done that? They could have done that in March, April. And if they had done that, inshallah, we would have prevented the death of these people. Because clearly, having conducted this, and the testing and everything that is done, The doctors were able to establish the cause. And the cause is what? N1, is it N1H1 influenza? Now we are told this thing was discovered sometime 2000 and was it 2005 by the World Health Organization, the 2009, and that it is as a result of what? It affects the throat and it's contagious in short, closer distance. Someone breathes out, you can get it. If the distance is close, go to the dormitories of the school and find out how the students are lying. I knew that we used to have bunk beds. Someone is upstairs, someone is down. Now people are lying on the floor. They have their mattresses joined to each other. So you can have a whole floor, you can have about 10, 15 mattresses, and they are lying. Now, so if someone is affected by this, it's easy, it can be transferred to the other person. Now, when we lost, unfortunately, those 7 brothers, sons of ours in this country, if the Minister of Education and Health were responsible, I believe, inshallah, would have prevented these deaths. Yes, if they had done that, you don't sit there and say, oh, God has determined that they should die. God says, protect yourself. God has created us and says that, look, you are going to do this number of years, but you have a responsibility to protect yourself. So if the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education and the government had been responsible, at that time for you to lose 7 students, this was a national emergency. 7 students in the crowded school. The reason why they didn't want to talk about that, because the moment that issue came up, people would have begun asking the free education and the congestion we have in the schools. Now I have listened to someone, and I who also said, oh no, the N1, the meningitis is not as a result of the weather. Of course, even when the weather is not bad and you clamp students, about 100, 200 students in a room, in one dormitory, one hall, what do you expect to happen? You have a Minister of Education who lambasted his predecessor because he came and met debts. And there isn't any ministry or agency that you wouldn't come and meet what? Profit and liability losses. And because of that, he described the good professor as useless. This was what Napo said. That Professor Nana was useless because he came and met debts at the ministry. Now I ask a simple question. If meeting debts can make you describe your predecessor as useless, now if you are living debts, not debts, how do we describe you? How do we describe you? Because that will become your legacy. That under your watch as a Minister of Education, you acted absolutely irresponsible and reckless to the extent that we lost over 20 students in one school and we lost several students across the country. And you cannot blame this on God. You needed to have acted responsibly, timeously. This thing was not done. We were told that they even exposed His Excellency the President. Because assuming that the president, when he attended, and Comrade Kwesi Pratt made the point here, when he attended the anniversary, the 60th anniversary, these things were happening in the school. Couldn't he? But the question is that, must it only be the safety of the president? Or it must also be the safety of every single person? Now look at how they acted. You have students in the school, parents who were frightened, taking their kids away. Now they are now saying that, oh, they want parents to bring back their kids. Now, do we know the number of students and family members who have been affected because these people have gone home? Some of these young men, perhaps they share rooms with their siblings. They spread it. Now, sometimes you wonder the kind of how reckless this government can behave. When we had this, and I'm just going to relate this as I did the other time. This with the Libya, our brothers and sisters who returned from Libya. I watched it on TV. From the airport, they lined them up, gave them some envelopes. I'm told 400 Ghana cedis, or this 600 Ghana cedis. Then they entered bus. The bus took them to Circle, dropped them, and they all entered their buses to their nothing. am not even looking at just only the medical screening. These people, if you listen to the harrowing stories, some of them indeed told, the circumstances, some didn't bath for weeks or months. We are being told there is palpable evidence that ISIS and Al Qaeda are all in Libya. Now, how many of them went there to move from Libya to Europe? Now, there's also evidence that a lot of Ghanaian young men are in Libya joining ISIS and Al Qaeda. There was a reportage by this security expert of students from KNUST. Now, if Ghana is now going to bring our citizens home because they are now killing a lot of them, selling them, assuming someone was a member of ISIS and joined such a flight and come home, the national security should have been involved in the screening to ascertain, you be able to establish whether indeed some of them genuinely, and of course majority of them I believe were those who wanted to use Libya to move, but the possibility of having some of them who would have been members of ISIS, because we had cases where when Europe started taking some of them from Syria, refugees from Syria, ISIS had their members infiltrated. So could that have happened? It tells you how reckless and irresponsible this government can be. Now, so if they had any illnesses or diseases, go and spread it. And it's the same thing. Frankly speaking, the Minister for Education, the Minister for Health, if they have some morals in them, they will resign. To be very honest, they will resign. Now, doctors, what's the name, heads of institutions are now reporting cases of lives that are lost in the schools, and you think that they are doing NDC politics? If you lose a child in that circumstance, would you want to do politics with it? Would you? And there is no question in anybody's mind. My worry, Your Excellency, has to do with the season we are getting into. If you go to the northern part of the country, we are experiencing Harmattan. And the moment Harmattan moves, the heat, that warm season comes. That is where we are getting into. These are seasons, even if you put on air condition, you don't feel it. Go to the schools. The students are choked in the dormitories like sardine, because you have an implementation of FSHS without vision, without thinking, just egoistic and wanting to achieve a campaign promise. That to the extent to which some of them can only sleep outside, subjected to the uncompromising weather and mosquitoes. And it is even a blessing if you succeed in getting a place to put your chop box. So look, go to the boarding schools and you find out how they pack, because every single student has his chop box and his trunk and everything in the room, because that is where you have your valuables. So you have beds at the same time having those items. Some of the schools I have seen, the windows, the little windows that are there, they pack their chop boxes there. No air. What plan are we putting in place to ensure that in that part of the country, where we have had every single year recorded deaths of CSM, which is medically attributed to lack of ventilation, attributed to the heat, and that season is a season that certainly would come, and it is coming at a time when we have an experience that we have never had, that huge numbers of students packed like sardine in the dormitories, that the heat comes, no air. What plan, what program is this government putting in place? That yes, we admit that we have these challenges with this implementation, but because of the season that is coming, let's ensure that we provide enough air. Because look, Your Excellency, in that circumstances, forget it. In Tamale, just even in Tamale, you find people, they live it and sleep outside, because the air it blows is even hotter, particularly in the night. And because the sun is hot during the day, in the night when you sleep, the heat comes out. There is no plan, there is no program. We haven't been told anything by this government what they are planning towards the three northern parts of the country, where we have these uncompromising heat seasons, which certainly would come. Sometimes, frankly speaking, My worry, and that is where I am, is sickening that you have the civil society group and members of the clergy who are quiet in this circumstance. If the Minister of Education has any plan, they should tell us. Yet you have a minister who insults everybody. Every single opportunity he gets, he attacks his predecessor, who has achieved something that this minister can never achieve for 30 years of his life. He can't achieve that. The ministry, what the professor achieved within that short period of time, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of reforms, you can't do that. Yet you describe her as useless because you came and you met debt. Every single ministry and agency, you will meet debt because some of them are continuum. Ishon, I rest my case.
Thank you, my senior comrade, for your submission. And I'll come to you, Ambassador Sampiale, for your thoughts on this matter.
First and foremost, as a father, I regret the irresponsibility of many people who should have known and acted to prevent this catastrophe that has taken place in this country. To lose 20 students is not any joke that you get up and you want to listen to it being politicized as usual as NDC, MPP fight. Since these things started, I have been monitoring what the government and government agencies are doing. And it appears to me that as a country, as a government, we have been very reckless in dealing with this matter. One of the most offending statements that I've heard, if it's true, is a statement by the Ghana Medical Association, in which statement the Ghana Medical Association is taking issues with those who exposed the president to the anniversary. Several questions will come out of that. But the first question is, what has happened to the president's intelligence system? Are you following me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Before a president goes to a place like Kumasi Academy to attend a function, the president has to send intelligence feedback. And if the president's intelligence was actually in place, they would have known that somebody had died mysteriously in that school, and that calls for investigation. Nothing like that happened. So the first question is our presidency safe? When the president is going somewhere, you see about 40 vehicles, and some of them are ambulances. And I'm not sure that the ambulance or the medical team of the presidency would wait until the president, God forbid, collapses before they act. But at least there should be an intelligence network that we should have foretold the president that, Mr. President, somebody had died at Kumasi Academy recently, and therefore, if we cannot avoid the visit, let's take precautionary measures. That would have been the time that they should have gone to fumigate the school, and the president should have sent a team to go and do whatever they had to do in protecting the president's life and also protecting the remaining students there. Be it as it may, nothing like that happened. Ghana Medical Association. What we are dealing with is a loss of Ghanaian children's life. It's not a political issue. It's a medical issue. No, so it's a public health issue. Yeah. My expectation was that a reasonable medical association would have mobilized its ranks to go to the affected areas, to go and help in the prevention of further deaths. They are sitting in Accra, concerned politically about useless statement they want to issue to please the president. In Latin, there's something called cuculus monfaces monatum. It means that the cloak does not make the monk. Because of in this country, when people go and hide behind institutions and make statements, at first we thought they were making genuine statement. Yeah. But to date, we have seen that they are only, devils in monks' clothes. All of them want political power. And the examples are there. In this government, for example, how many journalists who were always trying to get Muhammad to do what is right are now government officials? Yeah. Lawyers, you understand? Lawyers who were occupying Amafukuma, lawyers who were occupying Sekendi, lawyers who were occupying Nanton. In Flatfire, lawyers are now government legal consultants. I'm told the case with Radio Gold and others is being stepped down. And I want to know who are the legal representation to the NIE. Who are they? How much is that contract costing? So I'm saying that the cloak does not make the monk. And we know them by their fruits. Ghana Medical Association. Be concerned that as a country, poor boy and others, we have paid taxes to make you doctors. And we are losing 23,000 of your kind within 11 years. 5,000 doctors, they are all gone. If you were staying here, just as all of us are staying here, we could have prevented the death of those innocent students. That's my first take on that matter. As for my good friend, Dr. Bawumia, and his statement that they have contained that, for once, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But also being doubtful of the fact that, like you said, comrade, if some of the students went home and they are in their houses now and they have been infected with the disease, how could you have said that you are containing that? I don't want this also to impact like the CD who was arrested, the key given to the IGP, and the IGP cannot see the Bank of Ghana people releasing the CD. So as for me, I want to say, Dr. Bawumia, you could sometimes, you see, it's my friend ABA Fuseni, our mutual friend, who says that if the lion frequents the market, he will soon be taken as a big dog or a big cat. I was expecting the Minister of Health, who ought to have more credible technical information than the Vice President, to be commenting on this matter. You see, Mr. Sen, it is time to stop the unnecessary politicization of every issue and start governing the country, because in the end, we will suffer it. See, put the wool off and let us deal with the issues at stake. In all this, who bears the criminal responsibility? In all this, who bears the criminal responsibility? Under English law, which we are all Commonwealth countries, there's this criminal law that's called corporate manslaughter. Corporate manslaughter. We also have involuntary manslaughter. And I know there are some people who listen to Radio Gold and write opinions on their Facebooks about everything. I'm urging them to open their Google and see the definition of corporate manslaughter and involuntary manslaughter. Listen, if you read the common law definition of corporate manslaughter, it means that an organization, a company, out of its negligence, gross negligence, causes the death of another person, and they are culpable for corporate manslaughter. See, this is a headmaster who knew that a student had died and the death was unusual. what was he supposed to do? Immediately called the attention of the health authorities so that they could take public health measures to do that. But for him, the life of the student was inferior to his 60th anniversary. Is that not recklessness? This is gross negligence on the part of the headmaster. Okay. Listen, the ingredients for, charging somebody with corporate manslaughter is that, and with your permission, I want to read the ingredients as table in the case of the Republic versus Prentice, an English law. With your permission, I read.
Please do.
This is as a result of breach of duty. As a breach of duty amounting to gross negligence, where there is indifference to obvious risk of injury to health. That's the one ingredient, the test for corporate manslaughter. That you knew that what you are dealing with is risky, but you are indifferent to it. Let's look at the fact again. The government rolled out a program of free senior high school, laudable. The Italians say laudabunto, laudable. That's the Latin. Now, in rolling out the senior high school, you were very aware that it was going to increase the number of intake to the schools. So the Form 1 stream was going to multiply in folds. That's not all. In the same space, the SH2 students were also there. And in the same space, the third year students were also there. You also have the non-teaching staff and teaching staff in the same space. And therefore, if you are not reckless, it should have been clear to you that we have to put in measures to ensure that people do not contract any disease. So that's the first test. That you were grossly negligent because you were indifferent to the obvious risk of injury to people's health. That's the first point. That's the first ingredient. Now, the other thing is that you had actual foresight of the risk, coupled with your determination to run it all the same. First, you were indifferent that my implementation of the senior high school, damn it, even when headmasters were complaining, you wrote a letter. The head minister wrote a letter. So he was obviously indifferent to the risk. And that is a ground for charging him with corporate manslaughter. The minister, the headmaster, The next leg of it is that you had an appreciation of the risk, but your intention to resolve them was coupled with such high degree of negligence. You understand? You appreciated that there could be a problem, but in resolving it, you experienced or showed high degree of negligence. Now, wouldn't it have occurred to the school authorities, the Ministry of Education, and everybody that as you were going to increase the numbers, we don't even have an infirmary in the school? No. Is that with me? We don't have an infirmary in the school. And with the increase in numbers, there's seriously going to be a risk. Yeah. These are the three things that constitute corporate manslaughter. Now, listen, what is the issue here? The issue here is that the government decided to implement free senior high school program, laudable. But in doing so, did they take account of the health or the injuries that they were going to cause to the health of the many people they were putting together? Of course, by all indications, they did not. And therefore, we have somebody dying. or students dying. Is that not homicide? Is that not homicide? Mass people being killed as a result of the reckless implementation of an otherwise a very good program. I heard one of your people you interviewed saying that they are not against the senior high school, just as I am not. But if you implement the good program badly, it becomes a bad program. When would people stop putting winning election 2020 down to the issues of proper governance in this country? When would we do that? If you drive through Takoradi, before you enter Takoradi, you see a big signboard, free SHS is here. You come to Apramdo Johnson, free SH is here. Yes, we know it is here. So what? One of the people commenting on this issue said, oh, it is preferable for him to have a child going to school under a tree than to be illiterate. But if sending my grandson or my son to senior high school is to go and cause his death, I prefer his illiteracy. I prefer him stay in the house. Because it's not everybody who has become a big man who went to school. But if sending my child to school, you know, like Honorable Comrade was saying, there is statistics about this country about the temperature ranges at certain seasons. Yeah. We care about these seasons. All we have done is to pack students into these places. You know, and if you show the pictures, if sometimes when I read the Facebook and other, they say it's Photoshop. See, Honorable Your Excellency, Mr. President, you stand for many laudable things than what you are practicing. If this one of these children had been your grandson, Napo, if one of these students had been your brother, what would you have done? What would you have done? Would you be saying this? So reckless in your appreciation of the situation that when people are pointing out to you that we don't even have toilet facilities in the schools, you say, oh, some of them will be lucky to have rubber bags. Yeah. What kind of mediocrity have we imposed on ourselves? Forget arrogance, but this is mediocrity. As a minister, when you know that you are implementing a government program that calls for massive people, was Mahama mad when he said that let me build the school infrastructure, let me build the dormitory and others before we start the free SHS? Was he mad or was he wicked? He went around saying, oh, I will even build dormitories around it. Where are the dormitories? Yeah. The schools were complaining. Sir, we have exceeded our target. Even articulated trucks have axle load. They check the axle load. The schools were complaining. Sir, our dining halls cannot take as much student as possible. And he said, come on, go ahead. And then, you remember the initial stage, they were even dismissing and disciplining headmasters. So who is to take the criminal responsibility for this massive debt? Napoleon, the education minister. Who is supposed to do that? Look at the Minister of Education, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Health, I mean. In other countries, the following day, they would have, other resignation is not common in our part of the country, but they would have had a Marshall Plan of getting the hospitals, you know, put together a plan to go there. As some Olisu Kumasi Mponyo. Olisu Kumasi Mponyo. Those who could see maybe that the anti people. The Masani, Olisu Kumasi, Kumasi Academy. Now, if it has happened at Nanto Secondary School, we will know what will happen. I think that we have to set an example. We have to bring the minister to parliament to ask him and question him about his gross negligence causing the death of innocent Ghanaians. I think that somebody should take this matter on and charge the minister. And that's how one aspect I like about the special prosecutor. If it was not going to be another political thing. In other countries, you know what? The minister would have faced a special public prosecutor for gross negligence leading to manslaughter in other countries. And I want the minister to be sober a little. No condition is permanent. No condition is permanent. You are not the only minister of education, and you are not going to be the last. This is the responsibility. With 110 ministers, we are losing our children. So if you were 81, what would have happened? With 110 ministers. Because when they appointed 110 ministers, the understanding was that they're going to help the president with expeditious implementation of program. Is it the expeditious implementation of program? Listen, what solution are you having for the 110 ministers apart from buying 110 Land Cruisers for them? What solutions are we having? When you talk about it, say it's politics. I don't want to do politics with the life of Ghanaian student. I don't want to do politics with that. In fact, I think that our generation has failed the youth of this country. And we all should be ashamed. If I had died out of meningitis, would I be here? Would I be here? You've been made ministers, honorable. These honorable people are even calling themselves honorable. What are you giving us? Insults. Insults. Raw insult. Whatever you say, they insult you. Whatever you say, they appear stadium you. What is this? Your Excellency, people have voted for you. We all have confidence that you have to deliver. Please settle down. Settle down and take the governance of this country serious than just the political gimmicks to regain power in 2020. I hold the Minister of Health, I hold the Minister of Education criminally liable for the manslaughter of those innocent children. Thank you very much.
Ambassador, thank you for your submission this morning. We do have some 35 more minutes before the top of the hour 12 when the sports guys take over from us. I'll come to Mr. Pratt for his thoughts on the matter of the deaths at the senior high schools, the statement by the GHS, the GES as well, and the way forward.
Well, I think it's important to understand what is happening very, very clearly. And what is happening is that over the last 2 weeks, or a little over 2 weeks, some deaths have been reported in second cycle schools across the country. Indeed, dependent on your source of information, the number of students who have died would range from 9 to 20 or more. It started in the Kumasi Academy, then moved on to Eastern Region, where 2 schools have reported incidents. Yesterday morning, as I was driving through town, I heard of the case of the Damango Secondary School and also the Boku Secondary School. All kinds of things have been said by professionals and non-professionals. Indeed, one of the most irresponsible statements ever made was made when the Kumasi Academy incident broke, and somebody alleged that it was the case of Ebola. I mean, I thought that that was one of the most reckless and irresponsible statements ever made. But that has died. Now, given what is happening in any country, anywhere in the world, it would have been recognized as a national health emergency. I'm so shocked. As of now, we have not declared a national health emergency. Now, we are being told different stories, even by the professionals. We were told initially that some of the students, or the students who were dying out of an infection of H1N1. Then later we were being told, first it was bird flu, we were later being told that it was swine flu, and then we were told that it was a certain type of influenza. Yesterday, we were also being told of the suspicion that some of them, especially in the northern part of this country, could be caused by meningitis and so on. Now, I don't fault the health authorities for not knowing exactly what is causing the situation. I fault them for not speaking with one voice. You know, when these outbreaks occur, what's expected that all the relevant agencies will come together, look at the facts available, and make a determination as to what they know up to that point. It may not be everything that they know. But then they could all be telling us that, look, based on the examinations we have had and so on, we think that this is caused by H5N1 or H1N1 or whatever. And that we are doing further examinations to confirm. It's soothing. It makes us relax and gives us the comfort that the health authorities know what they are doing. You understand? But in this particular case, they are not speaking from the same page. And it's exceedingly worrying. Indeed, yesterday morning, I was listening to Radio Gold when Radio Gold spoke to a medical practitioner, I think from the Northern Region or Upper East region. And he said that it was suspected that the cases in Damango and Boku Secondary School were caused by meningitis. And that indeed only 3 out of 10 had been confirmed as meningitis. And that the others, they don't know. They are still investigating. That's frightening. That's really, really frightening. You understand? As if the doctors don't know, and this as of yesterday morning, how can we know? And how can we be assured that something concrete is being done about the situation? In any case, do you know my worry? My biggest worry is that after nearly 3 weeks of this outbreak, no state institutions has issued what they call a protocol. And a protocol is a very simple document which says that, look, every secondary school should by now be having a sick bay. You understand? And that if you have symptoms of fever which persist beyond a certain number of hours, report to the health authorities. You understand? Simple things like that. There's no protocol as we speak after 3 weeks. And I'm seriously alarmed. What is happening to our health professionals? What is happening to all these health institutions and so on? Why are they not telling us what we should be doing in order to prevent the situation from getting out of hand and so on? I'm not a medical practitioner. Of course, that is obvious. But you see, common sense teaches me that we can do many things to prevent this situation from getting out of hand. What are some of the common sense things that we can do? We have a school of many classrooms and many dormitories and so on. There's an outbreak. Immediately, you can begin to reorganize the school in such a way to minimize exposure. So you can decide that all the students who have been affected, their classmates, the people they sit in the same class with, need to be moved to one dormitory. So the system for organizing dormitory accommodation needs to change immediately. So that you have people who have not been affected, who have not been exposed to the disease, in separate dormitories from people who have been exposed. One sensible thing that you can do immediately. So far, I haven't heard that this very commonsensical thing has been done anywhere. Again, you need to stop inter-school activities. Immediately. So the students are confined to their campuses, so that the disease does not move to other campuses. One of the biggest mistakes we made was that when there was the outbreak in Kumasi Academy, parents were allowed to go to the school and take children out of the area which should have been confined. In so doing, it is possible that we are spreading this now in the communities. You understand? Now, for parents who have cars and so on, it's not such a big deal. You go to the school, you put your child in your own car, and you drive the child to your house. The risk of spreading the disease is minimal. It is there, but it is minimal. Imagine students whose parents do not have their own private cars. The parents go there, they put them in trotro or buses and so on. They go to the station, put them in other buses, and move on to the communities and so on. Can you imagine the possibility of spreading this disease? Now, if we had a very simple protocol, we could have averted all of this. And you don't have to be a doctor to apply this common sense. You understand? Now, Christmas is just around the corner. Schools are going to vacate. And so, are we measuring the likely consequences of sending students, especially in the affected schools, back into the community? If we had declared a national health emergency, it would be possible to say that at least for the affected schools, no Christmas holidays. They should stay on campus.
10 doctors there.
And then we send medical teams to the schools in order to take samples, to do tests, to do evaluation and so on, to make sure that the disease is contained. As we are speaking, there is no indication that even for the affected schools, they will not be giving Christmas holidays for them to move into towns and villages and so on, and possibly increase the infection. I mean, I can't believe that this is happening. I simply can't believe that commonsensical things like these things are not being done. You understand? Now, I've been following the situation quite keenly, because I panicked myself. There were reasons why I panicked myself, so I followed the situation quite keenly. And I've been speaking to medical practitioners. As all the medical practitioners I've spoken to have told me that over the same period, people are reporting to the hospitals with what looks like common cold. And that normally, if you have a common cold, even if you don't take any medicines at all, in a matter of 5 days to 1 week, it should clear. Now, there are people who are reporting to the hospitals with common cold, and sometimes it is lasting 6 weeks and 7 weeks, and is accompanied by coughing, incessant coughing, leading to the ejection of mucus and so on, green mucus, yellow mucus, and so on. So the doctors themselves are alarmed, and many doctors are asking, what is happening? How are people carrying common cold for 7 weeks and so on? Why are these symptoms there? And the symptoms also include pains in joints and so on. So there's general alarm in the society. This alarm may be totally unfounded. It may be based on ignorance. It may be based on just speculation and so on. We cannot do anything about it if our health authorities are not thinking and acting right. You understand?
Yeah, you're right.
So our health authorities need to be thinking and acting right, and doing things that give us the confidence that they know what they are about. Do you know the statement which was issued by the Ghana Medical Association? In all of this, given all the panic and so on, the Ghana Medical Association's only worry is that our president went to one of the affected schools and that his health could be at risk. My goodness, is that the worry? They are not worried about the fact that after 3 or 4 weeks, there's no protocol to guide us. They are not worried about the fact that we are not taking steps to ensure that students in the affected schools will not be released on holiday to go and mingle in the communities and so on, and increase the likelihood of spreading the disease. They are not worried about the fact that we haven't set up medical teams and positioned them in strategic advantage areas to make sure that the situation is contained. They are worried about the possibility of the president catching H1N1. Master, where are our priorities? I cringe, you know. Now, I've been talking to many people, and in fact, some of the statements that I hear are exceedingly alarming and shocking. I was talking to somebody yesterday. He said, oh, we have to be very careful so that the free SHS is not blamed for this situation. That's their concern. That's their concern.
Really?
Yes. That's the concern of some people. They are not worried about people who are dying. They are not worried about the possibility that these deaths may spread and so on. They want to make free SHS look good. And Master, the level of irresponsibility in this matter is simply shocking and amazing. Yesterday, I listened to one of my favorite radio stations as usual in the morning. And of course, I think you know the station I'm talking about. I listened to Radio Gold yesterday morning. And a gentleman came on air and actually vehemently insisted that the reason for this outbreak is because the president collected a horn from Prophet Usu Bempa or something like that. And he was persistent and insistent that the president collected a horn from Usu Bempa, and therefore that is the cause of this situation. And obviously, I know that the gentleman did not believe what he was saying. And he did not expect anybody to believe what he was saying. And yet, it was being said on such an important radio station like Gold. I mean, when I'm driving in the morning, I'm sure all of you experience it, and you listen to radio stations blaring from across the street and so on. Most of it is Radio Gold.
Yeah.
And this irresponsible statement is made on Radio Gold. You understand? And other radio stations are saying worse things about the cause of this outbreak. Do you know why this flippant, reckless, and sometimes deliberately diabolical messages find space on the airwaves and so on? It's because the people who know, who can tell us what is sensible and scientific, are afraid to speak out or have refused to speak out, sometimes for purely political reasons. If you're a medical officer, properly trained and so on, and we have a situation like this, and you would not talk because you don't want it to be linked to senior high school, you have betrayed your country, you have betrayed your profession, and you have made an idiot of yourself.
And your parents as well.
You understand? So that is the problem. People are not acting professionally. Ghana Education Service, what have they done? What have they done about this situation? Have they thought about the possibility of releasing thousands of these students from the affected schools and unleashing them onto the communities and the consequences is likely to have? And if they haven't thought about it, why are they sitting there taking pay and allowance? So this is common sense. Common sense. Oja,
very, very serious. Turning this country to a reckless or manageable situation, it's not right. It's not right. It's not right.
Zapat, thank you for your submission. And we do have some 15 minutes, I believe, on our hands. This one from Ed Awuku says, the chairman of the People's National Convention, Bernard Mona, has been arrested. Okay, let me get this message. Let me read it off air first, and then check the veracity of. No, I need to. Yes, I need to.
I think that not necessarily us in arrest.
Okay. Let me try and let my producer cross-check this statement before we put it out there. Well, so let me check if there are other text messages. Let me go to Twitter and see what is out there. And whilst I do that, if Patrick, you can check for me the veracity of the statement there, the comment the listener has made, I would appreciate it. Okay, let me see these text messages. Okay. All right, so this one from Adam Shakespeare says, "Hi, Shen, it's a reality that these challenges will double, triple. So am I going to sit and witness this number of deaths of my younger brothers and sisters double and triple all in the name of free SHS? No." And that's your comment that you sent through this morning. We have been live on GFM Radio in London, on Sekpele 104.3 in Lekpe, on Shine 96.9, Akachi on Lukusi Radio 96.1, on Global FM 105.1 in Ho, on Radio Pando 102.5, on Subs Radio online, and also on our website. I believe Radio Silver as well, second D. Okay, Radio Silver, second D. Please, do you happen to know the frequency, sir? 92.3. Okay, so Radio Silver 92.3. We have been live on that network as well. And so on that note, if the 15 minutes I have, if panel members have nothing to say, I believe we can bring the show to an end. Any other submissions are welcome at this point.
Mine is just to talk about briefly, just a minute or two, about the concerns that were raised about the free SHS. And the concerns were bordered on all the calculations we did.
Okay.
We had indicated with the figures provided by the Ghana Education Service that they were spending between 600 to 900 Ghana cedis in the feeding boarding students per month. So we did a rough estimate based on the figure provided by the Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education that if we are admitting 400,000 students, as the government themselves put out there, if you take just an addition of the 600, not even the 900, 600 multiplied by the 400,000, that will give you averagely how much is being spent a month. Then you multiply that figure by 3 because a term is made up of 3 to 4 months. So even if you multiply that figure, you are getting almost 600 million Ghana cedis, per term. If you multiply that by 3. So the figure, the budget that was provided by government, if you juxtapose them, is completely way different. So that is why we still want to know how government arrived at the 400, the 400 million cedis budget date. But I thought when Comrade Kwesi Prad was, I thought he was good. You were going to make reference to the interview you had with the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Comrade, I listened to the Director General of Ghana Education Service on this station. It was Ishon who interviewed him and asked him how much has been sent to the schools, and he said 20%. Then that the 20%, the heads of the institutions will use the 20% to buy perishables. They will use the 20% for maintenance. They will use the 20% for health. They will use the 20% for PE. So now you can imagine if they are using that 20% for health, you can imagine when you have a case like this, what is going to happen. And the 80% is for utility and what? In fact, the 20% is also for exercise books. The 80% is for utility, which they said they would negotiate with the utility companies. And there was another thing he said that they will use it for. So that is the reason why we have the challenges. The budget presented by the Minister of Finance himself had indicated that enrollment between 2015-2016 academic year and 2016-2017 academic year, if you take the 2018 budget, KG increased by 5.4%. Primary school increased by 5.4%. JHS increased by 7%. That is enrollment. So if JHS increased by 7%, just calculate 3 million, 7% of 3 million, what it will give you. So this should tell you that when you are having such implementation, it should tell you that you need more teachers. You have restored teachers' trainee allowances, but you restored it with a quota. Do you know that this country is being denied the production of almost 3,000 teachers every year. Well, if you look at the shortfall, juxtapose 2016 admission into teacher training colleges with the 2017, it has dropped. So by the time the MPP leaves office, the number of teachers they would have denied that. Take nursing. 2016 admission into nursing training colleges. 2017, there was a reduction by 1,600 nursing trainees. So the admission that was done in 2016 was 1,600 more than the admission done in 2017. Your Excellency, multiply 1,600 by 4. You are going to have 6,400 nurses will be denied in a country where already the Ghana Midwifery and Nurses Association themselves have indicated that we have a deficit of 38,000 nurses. So if you add the 38,000 to the 6,400, by 2020, we would have a deficit over 42,000 nurses in this country.
Well, all right. I want to recommend to the president that he should personally ensure that the space for free discussion of national issues is guaranteed. He has sworn an oath to defend every Ghanaian. I was in Takwa for the unity walk when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama said the implementation of the free SHS needs broader consultation and so that its implementation can be easier. I was there. I was standing just 2 persons away from him. A daily guide published that Mahama wanted to abolish prison. I was expecting government to say that is not what he said. But for political expedience, that's what has happened. You know. Secondly, Mr. President, when there was Ebola in the West African countries, John Dramani Mahama risked it, sent a team to go and face the problem. Even though some Ghanaian journalists were trying to import the disease to Ghana. You see, by the proactive activities of John Mahama, we admitted it. Sir, he's your friend. John Mahama is just a telephone call away from you. Call him and let him share his experiences with Ebola with you, so that this disease is because you are fighting me indeed. Christmas is just around the corner. The number of students that will at the state transport yard, the trotro station, you know, and if one person contaminates the state transport yard, how many people are going? Because you are really fighting me. Sir, for Napo and his brother, I don't want to talk about them. Sir President, this is a national emergency. Because if at the end of the Christmas, many people have been infected, what are we going to do? I hear the vaccines are now being imported or they have arrived.
No. There's been a delay, so we understand it will take a week long. Before it will.
But that is the H1N1 vaccine. Now, yesterday, I heard the medical doctor who spoke to Radio Gold actually say that the vaccine for meningitis, they've run out of vaccines for meningitis. Now, meningitis is predictable. We know when it occurs.
Yes.
Everybody knows that there's an outbreak around December in the 3 northern regions. So indeed, vaccination should start somewhere August or something.
Import and bring them.
You understand? We have sat down, we have slept for December to come. There's an outbreak and there's a shortage of vaccines. And what is wrong with us? What is wrong with all these big men and women?
See, you remember
what is wrong?
Our comrade Kwasiga, the former Minister for Health.
Yes.
I'm saying that it can be done. What is happening in this country, we can resolve them all. We had an MPP minister, Courage Kashiga. He would have resolved this matter a long time ago. He would have resolved this matter ago because of a personal experience I had with him. You are sitting there just talking, doing nothing. I mean, I'm charging them with criminal
they should resign. Honestly, they should. If they have
I mean,
pride.
so Kwesi, you are really fighting me this afternoon. See, if these people are going to my village without knowledge.
But you see, Massa, one of the problems, one of the things that we have to factor is that a school is a small area of population concentration.
Yes.
Can have a small area of 1,000 people. So if there's an outbreak and 4 people die, it is easy to dictate and so on. Can you imagine in the bigger community, if there's an outbreak, how long it will take for us to discover that something is happening, and how many people may have to die before?
Some will not even go to hospital.
When was the speed day? Because when was the speed day? The Accra Academy speed day.
Kumasi Academy.
Sometimes
I think last week.
Yeah, no, about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes. And all the people in the vicinity, Kumasi Academy has now come to become part of the city.
It's an area.
All the people in the vicinity, apart from the school concentration, Kwesi is talking about.
Yeah.
The infection to the other communities.
Yeah, they're all there.
So, Mr. President, take personal responsibility, create a national emergency so that we can all be part of the solution of this.
At least let's get a protocol. Let's get a protocol issued by Monday.
Yes.
Who simply says that, look, these are the symptoms. If this happens, do that. If that doesn't happen, do this. And so on. Basic protocol. How should schools handle these things? If somebody gets a fever in a school for 6 hours and is not improving,
moving here
and so on, do this and do that. Basic protocol. We need that now.
No, like you said, it's about PSHS. Let us not do anything that would mar the beauty of the PSHS.
That is not
at the expense of the lives of people.
Our generation is a disaster. We are really not doing anything for the good of the future of this country. All right. Comrade, thank you very much. I'm running back to Takrady to listen to you next week.
Is it true you've been arrested?
Has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion.
Bernard Mona, join us via my phone so we can speak to him. Hello, good morning, Bernard.
Good morning, sir.
I hope you're doing well.
I cannot be doing well at the counterback at the Lima police station.
What could have gotten Bernard Mona to be at counterback this morning?
That is the amazing thing. The Ghana Togo Solidarity Movement notified the IGP who forwarded the letter to the Greater Accra Regional Command, who invited me yesterday for a peaceful rally. It's not a demonstration, not a procession at the Kaokudi Park. This morning, Kwesi came to the park and looked a bit worried and said that he's getting instructions from us. I said that you can see we are enjoying and dancing here. And all of a sudden, I got he said he was going to the Nima police station and to return, only for the police to come and search a jungle style and started chasing everybody. So I stood up and said, what is the matter? They threw me as like a piece of paper into their bucket of their pickup and got about 18 of us to the Lima police station. It is amazing. Rallies of this nature are held in Lagos and many other towns, so as to bring to the international community what is going on in Togo and in Ghana. Democracy we fought for. The police that have been notified, they have not secured any injunction. They have not told us why we are here, and they have just come to tell me I should write a statement. And I said, what statement should I write when I don't even know the charge for which you have brought me to the police? So what am I going to write? I am unable to write a statement. So I'm here.
So as we speak now, they've not charged you with anything?
They've not charged me with anything, and they are compelling me to write a statement. And I find it a bit curious. You write a statement on a charge. I don't have a charge. So what am I going to write? That the police came and stampeded my right, even after I have notified them in accordance with the Public Order Act.
Now, when you notify the police, did they agree to the program you're going to run today?
Well, I don't know what you mean by agreement. Normally, when I send a letter to the IGP's office, yesterday I was at a function at La Palm Royal when I got a call from Kwesi story that the regional police commander, George Mensah, wanted to meet with me. I told them it was possible at 5. They pleaded, so I got there around 3. We had a discussion and they were telling me that, look, there are men who will be shot. But this is not the first time. Anytime they are trying to organize a rally or a protest, the police will always tell you that they don't have the men to do. So I told them that this is not a procession. It is just a rally. So I thank you, but we are going to go ahead to do our rally. And I left. So it is amazing that suddenly I am under arrest.
But when you met them and they indicated to you that they would not have the men to provide maybe security for you, did they also indicate their their dislike for the program happening today?
Not at all. Even today I met with Kwesi Fori at the park. And he told me he was getting to the Nima police station and to come. He came around 3 times. He sent his men 3 times. And it was on the 4th occasion they came in their Rambo style. And then they were picking people. So I asked what was it. They brought us here. And when I asked one Mohammed who was there with the Shia Dengue yesterday, he said they are acting on instructions from above. And that they will get back to me. They will not gotten back to me. And I'm here.
All right, so describe to us what really transpired. You talked about some Rambo Django style. Were you handcuffed?
Not me, but other members of the who came to participate were handcuffed. I was in a pickup, and one of the guys who decided to sit, a police officer said he was not sitting rightly and pushed him onto the back. The car, he fell on his own and he's been unconscious for more than 2 hours now. I don't know whether he's regained consciousness.
Was there any protest from your members when the police came? Any resistance whatsoever?
Not as I can see. Because I just stood up and asked, and they will not even listen to me because according to them, they had instructions from above to come and scatter our rally.
Well, finally, before we end, I know that being the chairman of the PNC, you are a popular figure when it comes to our politics. Have you, perchance, had the privilege of speaking to the commander of the police station where you are? If you have, what has he said to you? And who is instructing him to effect this arrest?
He said that they got instructions from regional police and that it is not for the district command.
Mr. Mona, we will follow up on this matter, but we are grateful you made time to speak to us, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, so that means the text message we got from a sender that he had been arrested.
But I didn't get the cause properly. What's the cause of the arrest?
Well, he says that they were going there for some peaceful protest.
What group? The PNC?
Before they,
Togo.
yes, on issues related to the happenings in Togo, I believe. And they got arrested by the police. Well, we will try and follow up and bring you the latest. But that's the voice of the chairman of the PNC, Mr. Bernard Mona.
I'm just reading something. The reason that our rally, if I can read.
Okay, all right.
I'm just reading something. I think on 3 News.
Okay.
Their website. I can't read it, but let me just read the last part.
Okay.
What Bernard Mona said to the journalist, that our rally is to draw the attention to the decaying situation in Togo. As you are aware, the masses of Togo have for the time now been protesting peacefully for the full bouquet of democratic rights and the abolition of dynastic rule, the letter stated. I think that basically that's
what happens in Togo. So that brings us to the end of the show. Ed Awuku, and I'm grateful for the story that you shared with us this morning. But as you would always know, Radio Gold professionalism is important to us, and so we would always want to cross-check with information that we get before we put it out there. And so that's the position Mr. Bernard Mona finds himself. This morning, we have looked at 2 key issues, the impeachment process of Mrs. Charlotte Osei, and also the matter of the meningitis, the H1N1, and how the Ghana Health Service has conducted itself, that of the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health. And I was helped by Kwesi Pa Jr., the managing editor of the Insight newspaper, Ambassador Sampi Yale, Ghana's High Commissioner to India, Comrade Mutala Ibrahim Mohammed, a former MP for Nanton and Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. They join me here to do justice to the issues. Most certainly Monday morning will be on for the Gold Power Drive, but production is being by Patrick Asford Bodu. I wish you God's blessings and the very best as well. Technical support from the technical team. We are grateful. God bless. And an invitation to you to join us for the burial of the late brother of our brother Kobe Fiagbe, the editor of the Ghanaian Lens, and then also the burial of our brother Kaba. You are all invited. I'm sure you do know where it is. So thank you, and let's make a date next week Saturday.
Liberty of human equality. Let's salute him.